What's up, everybody? I was just going to do a live sharpening chains on my Stihl USG grinders. These are my favorite grinders. I've had Oregons and some of the Harbor Freight ones and a bunch of other ones in between, but these are the most accurate, user-friendly, and efficient for what I do. Get them from Stihl. I want to say they're $600-700 a piece, but they're really nice, sturdy units, and I don't have any problems with them. So I'm going to sharpen a chain here. Just wanted to show you guys the process for that. So when you get these chains in, customers will usually bring them in big bundles like this, and I know it's hard to figure it out sometimes. But what I always do, I grab loops, and when I grab loops, then I can just keep pulling it out until I get all the knots out of there. So when it's wound up, like if we had it like this, you'll grab a loop here, you'll grab a second loop there, and you'll just pull on them until everything falls back into place. So that's the easiest way to do it, to get all the knots out of your chains. Yeah, let me throw it up here and I'll show you guys how this all works. So this is going to be a 3/8 chain right here, and this is going to be my 3/8 pico disc, so I need to switch it out to my standard 3/8, and that makes a big difference. So you got to use the right discs on the right chains. Get this back on here the right way. And then I have two of these setups, one for the cutting tooth and then one for the rakers. So if you take a look at this one, this is set up for my cutting teeth, and I use it for pretty much every single chain. And then right here I've got one set up for the rakers. So let me show you how I do everything. So there's going to be 3 settings on the chains. So what I'm doing, the 3/8 chain, your first setting back here is your A setting. This is going to be at 40 degrees on these machines. Your next setting is going to be the B setting. So depending on which way you're going, you're going to have negative or positive. On your 3/8 chains with your 30-degree angles, that's going to be -15 and +15. So if I'm setting on negatives doing that angle, I need to come back around to the front here, and I need to do the corresponding degrees on the cutting tooth. So this particular chain is going to be 30, so I'm going to go right here. If I was doing a Hexa chain, I'd be at 25. Some of the carbide tips are going to be 25. And then, of course, your ripping chains, those are going to be 10 degrees, so it'd be all the way down to here. So that is the 3 settings on there, A, B, and C. So I do have these little cheat sheets, which are nice, from Stihl. This is going to show me all the different angles and stuff that I need to be based off what chain I'm doing. So here's the different types of chains. Your common ones, RMX, Duros, all that stuff's on there. Then it has all your angles, like your A, your B, your C. So everything is listed out for you there. And they even have this other map chart if you're doing hedge trimmer blades and stuff like that. I really don't use that one too much. I do most of that stuff with a Dremel or hand files. I don't really want to readjust all this out just to do these things. There's different attachments you got to get. So these grinders are strictly for chainsaw chains. So the first thing I'm going to do once I get all my angles set up there is I'm going to go to my first cutting tooth. When you're doing the cutting teeth on this side over here, this adjusts in and out, so that way you can put tension on there. So I'm going to adjust that all the way out. I'm going to drop this down, and what I'm looking for when I go right here, I don't know if you can see this that well, but I want to make contact with that cutting tooth. So since I'm not making contact with that yet, I'm going to just slightly turn in this knob right there. I'm going to go back down, still missing it, go in a little more, and you hear that crunch, that little crunch right there. is my grinding wheel hitting the front of the tooth. So I don't want to be into it where I'm going like that. That's going to be destroying a bunch of the tooth. It's going to be heating up the metal too much. So I just want to get it to the point where I'm taking just the very front edge off. I don't want to be taking much meat off. So that is that setup right there. Let me go ahead and turn this on and I'll show you guys how it works. So there's different adjustments here. If you look back here, there's actually a stop. I don't use that because I do enough chains. It's basically to keep you out of the strap. So if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have a good feel for it, you're going to want to make sure that you stop. You put your stop up here so it'll keep you from cutting into that. If you do enough of them, you just got the feel and you know enough when to stop. So right here, if you can see that, that puts the pressure, keeps that chain from moving. Everything's nice and tight. So let's drop down and I'll do one. Just one quick swipe. You don't sit there and gnaw at it. Open that up, pull it through, do one more. And then I adjust that back just a hair because it's taking more off than I want. And then if you get to the point where you don't feel like your grinding wheel is true, I have one of these tools. This actually dresses up the stone. Just smooths up the sides if there's any little chips from hitting the chain. Make sure everything's nice and clean. Drop it down. Go to the next one. And just work my way all around here. So if you have a Stihl chain, they're going to have a yellow or green strap. I always try to find that strap first, and that's where I start out with. Husqvarna is going to have a gold strap on there. And some of the other off brands don't have straps. They're all the drive links and straps are all the same color. So you just got to pick a place to start and go from there. I mean, if you wanted to, you could mark it out with some paint or a marker or something, but that just requires more work than it's worth. So as you're going around, you can see the metal's clean where you're trimming it down. So just keep going around there. And eventually you'll get to the point where all your teeth are sharp. And then once you get all the way around, then we're going to switch everything and rotate to the angles for the other side. So let me finish this chain up and I'll show you switching that all around. So that one, I've made it all the way around. If you look right there, you can see the cutting tooth, nice and sharp. If you notice on top, it's not all discolored. And what I'm trying to do is get everything back to a nice point there. So I don't want to have a rounded area. If for some reason after sharpening it, it's still rounded there, I might tighten it up a little bit and do another pass around. I'm not going to want to just take that meat off all at once, because what will happen is I'll heat that metal up too much. So just do a little bit at a time, work my way around. But whatever I'm doing to this side, I have to do it to the other side so that way everything's even. So I'll put this back on here and I'll switch it around. So I went on -15 on my setting there. So now I'm going to go up to positive. So turn it in there, tighten everything down. And then on the front right here, we're going to swap it around. It's going to rotate over to positive 30 degrees. Tighten that down. Since I'm on the other cutting tooth, I don't need this extended out, so I'm going to push it back. Get everything tightened up here. So I will tell you from side to side, when you do it, if you have the same settings, it will bite in a little bit more on that side for whatever reason. So I just back it off just a hair as I'm doing it so it doesn't pull too much meat off. And then when I go down, I just see where I'm at with it and I just adjust it accordingly. So that one, pretty clean, just gonna go in a hair. So I got that where I want it to, so now I can just work my way all the way around. Just one nice clean swipe at it. You don't want to sit there and eat. You don't want to go all the way down into the strap. Just clean that point up, clean the front of the tooth up, and just keep working your way around. So I know there's a foot pedal for this. I don't like the foot pedal. I've gotten really efficient and used to the chain doing it this way, so I'm just going to keep doing it that way. And I can go pretty fast with this. I've done enough of these where I can probably keep up with an automated machine pretty good once I get in a groove and I get all my settings where I want them. So these are really nice machines. Everything works really smooth on them. I would highly recommend it. You can purchase these from your Stihl dealer. I will look up the part and I'll post it later to another video. But yeah, it's just this Stihl USG grinder. So if you just ask your dealer for the USG grinder, that's all it is. It'll come with a set of the cutting wheels, the grinding wheels. So I've made it all the way around, and you can see that tooth nice and clean, nice and sharp. That's exactly what I wanted right there. So I've hit both sides. Now I'm going to go over to doing the rakers. So if you don't know what a raker is going to be that little piece that's right in front of the cutting tooth. That is going to set your chip depth. So on your non-safety chains, it's going to have a single raker right there. On your safety chains, on that extra drive link, it's going to have a second raker that pops out. So when it's rotating around the sprocket end, it reduces the kickback. Other than that, it's going to be the same exact cutting tooth. If it's a super chain green, it's going to be the same as a super chain yellow. It just has a different raker on there. So that's it. So as far as setting this up, the angles are already set. I got everything zeroed out the way I want it. So I'll just go to the first tooth, lock it into place, and I'll come down, see where it's sitting, back it up a little bit, because if you're doing like a 1/4 inch pico chain, 3/8 pico, it's going to be different distance between the raker and the cutting tooth as opposed to like a 3/25 or a 3/8 chain. So you have to adjust this. Notice the angle on there too. But this, what'll happen to this cutting wheel, it gets a little divot in there, especially on new rakers. If you haven't got that top established there, it'll create a little bevel in there. So I'll have to keep dressing this up as I'm going around the chain because it just eats into it. But once you guys got that established on top where it's nice and flat, it won't bevel it out near as much, and then it just makes it really easy to sharpen from here on out. So I don't like doing the new chains because I always destroy a bunch of these wheels, but that's just the nature of the beast. So when you're doing the rakers, I've got this raker gauge, just super primitive, super simple. If you don't know if your raker needs to be taken down or not, you put this on there, run it over. If it's catching, that's the amount of meat that you want to take off. So right there, it's catching just a hair. So I'm just going to take it down the same amount that I took down when I was doing the cutting tooth. So just enough to clip the top there and make it so it's sitting below that. So that will maintain your chip depth. So let's go ahead and I'll go around on this. I'm going to dress up this wheel first because it's got a little bit of a groove in there from the last time I sharpened. So this is angled up like that. I just want to maintain my angle. So when I do drop down, it just sits nicely on there. So that's all I'm doing, just one quick tap. And then I just go around and I hit all the teeth. I don't have to do any other adjustment on there. Every single raker is going to get hit the same way. Just going all the way around. Takes that top off a little bit, keeps that depth for the chip the same, just nice and smooth. And then you'll notice when you're doing the rakers, once it starts getting a little groove there, it's not going to have a nice clean top on the raker. So then you'll know you need to stop and just dress it up for a minute. So that's all you got to do, and just keep going around. But this works pretty slick. I have the two machines, so I don't have to switch all the angles out and all the wheels out all the time. It just makes my life easier because I do quite a few chains, hundreds a month, thousands a year. So having this set up the way that I do saves me a lot of time. I can make everything real efficient. And then after you do enough of these, it's just second nature. You just get in the groove. You can see how fast I'm moving compared to having a manual machine with the foot pedal on it. So I got all the way around there. You can see it didn't take any time. So if you look right here, see the rakers nice and clean there, nice and shiny on top. Everything's the way it's supposed to be. So yeah, it really doesn't take much time at all. I would say chains, when I'm sharpening them, if they're 25 inches and under, I can do them in less than 5 minutes. Skip tooth chains are really quick. Obviously, they're missing every other set of teeth. The ones that are sort of a pain to do are the 1/4 inch Pico. You got to use a different wheel. They're just really tiny teeth, so you got to be a little bit more cautious with them when you're dropping that down, because sometimes that wheel wants to bite in there and pull it, and you don't have a whole lot of meat on those teeth, so you can easily cut into the straps. So you just got to be more careful with that when you guys are doing that. But let me show you a couple other things here. If you're doing Duro chains, you got to have a diamond wheel. These diamond wheels, I think last time I bought one, were like 120 bucks for Stihl. But this is one that I've had for years. I mean, I don't have a ton of Duro chains come into the shop, but when I do, I'm charging double what I am for the other chains because I'm using that expensive wheel on there. It has a little bit more setup with your angle, switching everything over, but it pretty much sharpens exactly like your other teeth would, just the angles are a little bit different. Hexa chains, that has a different wheel. Let me grab that really quick and show you. That's a little bit different of a beast. So the Hexa, if you're unfamiliar with the Hexa tooth, it's from Stihl. There's a picture of it right there. It's basically a super chain with a notch cut out in the front. And the idea behind this, you're going to have less drag and resistance, so it's going to cut about 10% faster than your normal super tooth. And I've had a lot of guys actually try that out and tell me, and it does cut faster. So if you're looking for a faster cutting chain, I would recommend the Hexa chain. But notice this wheel. Notice how it's got this point, and it's got two edges that are flat back. It's not rounded and beveled. So in order to sharpen those Hexa chains, you got to maintain this as you're dressing it with this, so you're hitting angles like this to keep that point on there. And then again, it's different angles. So on my machine, your A is going to be 25 instead of 40. So that's going to be your first measurement on the back. You're going to be at 0 on your B, which is your front to back. And then your C, which is the front slide, you're going to be at 25 degrees or negative 25 degrees. So instead of that 30 degrees on most of your other chains, you have to hit it at 25. And if you haven't done these before, it's not necessarily tricky. You just have to have the right angles, and you have to have the right wheel, and you have to dress it upright, and you have to make sure that it's set right on there, because if you don't, you can screw those up pretty easy, and then you basically just have a glorified super chain. So takes a little bit of practice. If you guys do have this set up with the Hexa wheel and the Hexa chain, I would practice on one that you don't really care if you trash it a little bit. But I don't do a ton of these. A lot of guys just hand file them on their own, but when I do, I just got to pay a little bit more attention to what I'm doing here. So let me throw this up again. This is going to be your angles. I'm not sure on what other machines, what other brands, what they have for angles, but I'm assuming that most of that stuff's going to be pretty much crossover straight across the board with different brands. So this might be helpful to you. You can see, you know, like your 3/8 Pico chain, your 3/8 1/4" 325. You can see all your different angles and stuff on there. So take a screenshot of this. It's pretty handy. I use that all the time when I'm doing stuff outside of my normal angles. Most of your stuff's going to be your 40 degrees on your A's and then your 15s and 30s, so that stays pretty consistent. But if you get some different chains in your shop and a variety of stuff, you're going to need to know all this stuff so you don't screw things up. So that's all I got for today. I really appreciate you guys watching in. If anybody has any questions, drop them down in the comments and I can answer them for you. So, trying to think what else I wanted to tell you guys. So, part numbers for this stuff. If you guys are looking for these, right here, your raker part number, right there. I realize everything's going to be backwards, so you're just going to have to screenshot it and flip it around. The Hexa wheel, there's the part number on the Hexa wheel. This is going to be your 3/8 Pico and 1/4" Pico. And then let me grab one of the standard 3/8 for you. So right there's a part number for that one. So I can throw these up again, just record that. I'm not sure what the size hole is on there, if it's going to fit other machines, if it's going to be universal or not. But these are good discs. I've had really good luck with them. I will tell you, just from experience and learning the hard way, if you ever drop one of these on the ground or even drop it from like 6 inches up, throw the disc away. I've had the unfortunate experience of dropping it, not noticing that there's a slight crack in it, and then as soon as you get it on the machine, that thing is going to launch and split apart. So you can really get hurt if you're not paying attention. So if that thing hits the ground and it looks like it's fine, toss it, buy a new one. The raker one is the most expensive. I want to say those are like 20 bucks or so, 25 bucks. These other ones are going to be, I want to say like 12, 15 bucks if I remember right. But I also sell the Oregon stuff here in the shop. And I know the Oregon wheels, I was retailing those for 30 some bucks. So I know they're a lot more money than the Stihls. So might spend a little bit more money up front getting one of these machines. But the discs will be a lot cheaper, and they work really well. They last a long time. I mean, I can go through probably 30 or 40 chains on a Pico disc or a 3/8 325 disc. The raker is the one that I eat through the most. Unfortunately, the rakers, if you're doing a bunch of new chains, like I said, they leave a gouge in there. The new chains, I would say probably 10 to 12 chains, and then you got to replace that wheel. And part of the problem is too, if you look at the setup of the rakers, when I'm going down with the raker on there, it only goes so far. So the machine will actually get stuck right here and bump out before I use all of that raker wheel. So if I do bigger chains, it'll still work for a while. But if I'm doing 1/4" stuff, it's so low to the ground, the height of the chip or the cutting tooth on there, you're gonna get probably a 1/4" less use out of that wheel there. So just know that going into it. If you're doing a bunch of small chains and big chains, I would do all your small stuff work first on the raker, so that way you can use up as much of that disc as possible and finish them out on your 325 stuff. But yeah, other than that, if you guys don't have one of these tools, they're probably like $5. I think Oregon's probably got them too, Husqvarna, any brand. But just your raker depth gauge right there, you can see about how much difference it is between the cutting tooth setting up on there and then the raker in here. That little distance right there is going to be the depth of your chip, how thick that chip is. So that's what you want to maintain as close to factory as possible. Obviously, if you take your rakers down too much, what's going to happen is your chain is going to pull right into that log. It's going to be really hard. Pretty dangerous situation. If you don't take that raker down, but you're taking your chip depth down, or you're taking your cutting tooth down, eventually that raker is going to be higher than your cutting tooth, and you're not going to be getting the chip that you need. So with that, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.